Every morning, before the world speaks to you, before your phone vibrates, before worries rush into your chest, you are given a quiet moment of power. Most people waste it. They wake up already defeated, scrolling, rushing, complaining, reacting. And without realizing it, they surrender control of their mind before the day even begins. The Stoics understood something most modern men and women have forgotten. How you begin your morning determines how strong or weak your mind will be for the rest of the day. Discipline is not built in dramatic moments. It is built in silence, consistency, and the unseen rituals you practice when no one is watching. When you wake up, the first thing you should do is give thanks to God. Not out of fear, not out of habit, but out of awareness. Gratitude realigns your mind. It reminds you that breath is not guaranteed, that strength is a gift, and that another day is an opportunity entrusted to you. When you place God first, you place order above chaos, meaning above impulse, and discipline above distraction. In this video, you will learn 10 Stoic rules that, when practiced every morning, will discipline your mind, sharpen your focus, and rebuild your inner strength. These are not motivational tricks. These are ancient principles tested by time, hardship, and human weakness. Listen to this till the end. One rule alone can change your mornings. All 10 can change your life. If you are serious about building an unshakable mind, subscribe to the Inner Fortress, like this video, and share it with someone who needs discipline, not motivation. Now, let us begin. 1. Begin the day with gratitude and reverence. The disciplined mind does not wake up in a rush. It wakes up in awareness. Before the noise of the world enters, before obligations pull at your attention, there is a sacred moment of stillness. This moment is often ignored, yet it holds immense power. How you treat the first few minutes of your day quietly shapes the strength of your mind for everything that follows. When you wake up, the first act of discipline is gratitude to God. Not rushed, not mechanical, but intentional. Gratitude reminds you that life is not guaranteed, strength is not permanent, and time is not owned. You have been given another day, not because you demanded it, but because it was allowed. This awareness humbles the ego and steadies the mind. A grateful mind is difficult to disturb. When you acknowledge God first, you place order above impulse and meaning above emotion. Instead of waking up feeling behind, pressured, or anxious, you begin grounded. You understand that whatever comes today, difficulty, resistance, loss, or delay, will be faced with clarity, not panic. Most people wake up and immediately reach for their phone. They absorb other people's opinions, fears, and chaos before they have even met themselves. This is mental surrender. The Stoic refuses this. He protects the mind at its most vulnerable moment. Gratitude becomes a shield. Reverence becomes a boundary. To thank God in the morning is to accept responsibility. You are saying, I recognize this life is meaningful, and I will not waste it. Discipline grows naturally from this mindset. When life is seen as a gift, careless behavior becomes harder to justify. Laziness loses its appeal. Complaining loses its power. Gratitude also dissolves entitlement. Entitlement weakens discipline because it convinces the mind that comfort is owed. A grateful person understands that comfort is optional, but character is not. The Stoics believed that strength begins when a person accepts reality without resentment. Gratitude is how that acceptance begins. Reverence in the morning does not require long prayers or rituals. It requires sincerity, sitting up, breathing deeply, acknowledging God, acknowledging life, acknowledging the opportunity to act with virtue today. This simple act trains the mind to pause before reacting. That pause is discipline. When gratitude becomes a daily practice, the mind becomes less reactive throughout the day. You stop being surprised by hardship. You stop expecting ease. You meet challenges with steadiness because you already accepted, early in the morning, that life will demand effort. The Stoics taught that external events are beyond your control, but your response is always yours. Gratitude sharpens this truth. You may not control what happens today, but you control the spirit with which you meet it. A grateful mind chooses composure over chaos. Over time, this practice builds emotional resilience. Anxiety weakens because you stop seeing the future as a threat. Anger softens because you stop seeing obstacles as personal attacks. Discipline strengthens because your mind is no longer ruled by entitlement or impatience. Beginning the day with gratitude is not about religion alone. It is about alignment. It aligns your mind with reality, your emotions with humility, and your actions with purpose. It reminds you that today is not about indulgence, but about responsibility. This is why Stoic discipline always begins here. Before strength, before control, before action, gratitude trains the mind to stand firm before the world tries to move it. When you rise each morning and put God first, you are not escaping reality. You are preparing to face it fully, calmly, and with dignity. This is how discipline is born, quietly, consistently, and long before the world notices. 2. Master the first thought of the day. Your first thought in the morning is not random. It is the product of habit. Whatever occupies your mind when you wake up has been trained there by repetition. If anxiety greets you first, it is because you have allowed worry to become familiar. If clarity greets you, it is because discipline has been practiced. The Stoics understood that the mind, left unattended, will drift toward fear, complaint, and anticipation of pain. This is why mastery must begin before the day begins. The first thought is a gatekeeper. What passes through it shapes the tone of everything that follows. Most people wake up already thinking about problems. Bills, conflicts, expectations. They rehearse stress before they even stand up. This weakens the mind because it teaches it to submit before resistance has even appeared. The disciplined mind does not allow this. Instead, the Stoic pauses and chooses the first thought deliberately. Not optimism, not fantasy, but control, a reminder that the day will contain difficulty, and that difficulty will be met with reason, not emotion. Marcus Aurelius advised beginning the day by reminding oneself that interference, ingratitude, arrogance, and hardship are inevitable. This was not pessimism. It was preparation. When you expect resistance, you are not shaken by it. The first thought should anchor you in what you control. Your attitude, your effort, your response. Nothing else is promised. This clarity immediately reduces anxiety because it removes false expectations. When the mind is trained to start the day with intention, it becomes harder for external events to hijack it. You are no longer waking up to react. You are waking up to command. This practice requires discipline because the mind resists structure. It prefers familiarity, even if familiarity is chaos. You must interrupt this pattern daily until clarity becomes automatic. Over time, your mornings change. You wake up calmer, more focused, less reactive, not because life got easier, but because your mind became stronger. This is the quiet power of mastering the first thought. It is invisible, but it governs the entire day. 3. Rise with purpose, not comfort. The moment you wake up, a silent negotiation begins. Comfort whispers. Discipline waits. One promises ease, the other demands effort. The choice you make in this moment reveals who is in control of your life. Most people surrender immediately. They stay in bed longer than necessary. They delay movement. They delay responsibility. Each delay seems small, harmless, insignificant. But discipline is not destroyed in one decision. It is eroded through many small compromises. The Stoics viewed comfort as a dangerous teacher. It trains the mind to avoid discomfort, and a mind that avoids discomfort cannot grow. Rising with purpose is not about waking early for appearance. It is about refusing to let comfort command you. When you get out of bed promptly, you send a signal to your mind. You are in charge. The body may resist, but the will leads. This strengthens self-command, which is the foundation of Stoic discipline. Purpose in the morning does not require complex plans. It requires intention, knowing why you are rising, knowing what you are preparing yourself to face. Even simple duties deserve respect when they are done with discipline. Comfort weakens urgency, purpose sharpens it. When you rise with purpose, time becomes valuable. You stop wasting it, you stop drifting. You move with clarity. The Stoics believed that voluntary discomfort builds inner strength. Rising when it is inconvenient is a small act of resistance that prepares you for larger ones. If you cannot command yourself in comfort, you will not command yourself in chaos. Over time, this practice reshapes identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who reacts to feelings. You become someone who acts according to principle. This is how discipline becomes part of who you are, not something you force. Rising with purpose is not heroic. It is quiet, consistent, unseen, and it changes everything. 4. Train the body to strengthen the mind. The Stoics never treated the body as separate from the mind. They understood that the state of the body directly influences the strength of the will. A neglected body produces impatience, restlessness, and weakness of resolve. A trained body, however, becomes an ally to discipline. This is why physical training was considered a moral practice, not a cosmetic one. Training the body in the morning establishes command. It sends a clear signal that comfort will not dictate behavior. The body may resist at first, but resistance is part of the lesson. Each time you move despite discomfort, the mind learns obedience. This obedience later transfers to more difficult decisions. Most people associate physical training with motivation. The Stoic rejects this dependency. Motivation is unstable. Discipline is reliable. By acting before motivation appears, you reverse the natural hierarchy. Action shapes feeling, not the other way around. This is one of the most powerful mental shifts a person can make. Morning movement clears mental fog. It grounds scattered thoughts and stabilizes emotions. Physical exertion releases tension stored in the body, preventing it from spilling into anger, anxiety, or impulsive behavior later in the day. A body that has been worked is less likely to betray the mind under stress. The Stoic approach to training values consistency over intensity. Excess leads to injury. Neglect leads to decay. Discipline lives in balance. Simple daily practices, walking, stretching, controlled breathing, basic strength work, build resilience without exhaustion. The goal is readiness, not spectacle. Training also teaches patience. Progress is gradual. Strength is earned slowly. This conditions the mind to respect process and abandon the desire for instant results. A patient mind makes better decisions and endures hardship with composure. Voluntary physical effort also prepares the mind for involuntary hardship. When the body becomes familiar with exertion, discomfort loses its threat. You no longer panic when conditions are unfavorable. You remain calm because difficulty is no longer foreign. The Stoics believed that hardship reveals character. Training invites hardship intentionally so that character can be shaped rather than exposed unexpectedly. This is wisdom. It is better to face controlled discomfort daily than uncontrolled chaos occasionally. A trained body supports focus. When energy is regulated and tension is released, concentration improves. You become less reactive, less irritable, and more present. This presence strengthens authority in speech, action, and decision-making. Physical discipline also humbles the ego. The body reminds you of limits, fatigue, and vulnerability. This humility protects the mind from arrogance, which is one of the greatest threats to discipline. A humble mind remains teachable. Training the body is not about punishment. It is preparation. You are equipping yourself for the demands of the day. You are strengthening the vessel that carries your mind through responsibility, stress, and resistance. When training becomes a morning ritual, identity changes. You no longer see yourself as someone who avoids discomfort. You become someone who meets it calmly. This identity reinforces discipline automatically. The Stoics understood that freedom is not found in ease, but in self-command. A body that obeys the mind gives the mind freedom from impulse. This is true strength. Each morning you train, you are not chasing perfection. You are practicing leadership over yourself. That leadership extends into every area of life. This is how physical discipline becomes mental sovereignty. Control what you consume each morning. The Stoics understood that discipline begins with boundaries. Not just physical boundaries, but mental ones. What you allow into your mind in the early hours quietly determines the quality of your thoughts for the rest of the day. A mind that consumes disorder in the morning struggles to produce order later. Most people wake up and immediately consume noise. Messages, headlines, social feeds, arguments, and comparisons flood the mind before it has stabilized. This creates artificial urgency and false priorities. The mind becomes reactive instead of deliberate, scattered instead of focused. The disciplined person does the opposite. They delay consumption. They protect the morning from unnecessary stimulation. This is not avoidance of reality. It is preparation to meet reality with clarity. The mind is most impressionable after waking. What enters first leaves the deepest impression. Information is not neutral. Every piece of content carries emotional weight. Fear-driven news breeds anxiety. Comparison-driven media breeds dissatisfaction. The Stoic chooses silence or intentional input because silence allows the mind to align itself before being influenced. Control also applies to speech. What you say in the morning matters. Complaining trains the mind to expect resistance. Gratitude trains it to accept responsibility. Silence trains it to observe. The disciplined morning favors restraint over expression. Food consumption follows the same principle. Overindulgence dulls awareness. Excess comfort invites lethargy. The Stoic practices moderation not to deny pleasure, but to preserve alertness. The body should feel ready, not heavy. Stimulants must also be respected. Relying excessively on external stimulation teaches the mind dependence. Discipline grows when energy is cultivated through routine, rest, and restraint, not constant artificial boost. The Stoics believed that attention is life's most valuable currency. Whatever you give attention to grows in influence. By guarding your attention in the morning, you guard your day. This is where many fail because discipline here requires saying no to distraction. No to impulse. No to habits that feel harmless but weaken focus. The mind resists boundaries at first, but clarity soon follows. When consumption is controlled, thought becomes sharper. Decision-making improves. Emotional swings reduce. You are no longer pulled in multiple directions before your day has even begun. This practice reveals self-respect. You are signaling to yourself that your mind is worth protecting. That not everything deserves access to your attention. If these principles resonate with you, subscribe to the Inner Fortress. This channel exists for those who value discipline over distraction. Like this video and share it with someone who needs clarity more than comfort. Control what you consume, and you control what you become. This is Stoic discipline applied in its most practical form. 6. Prepare for difficulty before it arrives. The disciplined mind does not wait for hardship to announce itself. It prepares in advance. The Stoics understood a truth that modern life often hides. Difficulty is not an interruption of life, it is a feature of it. When you expect ease, resistance feels unfair. When you expect difficulty, resistance becomes manageable. Preparing for hardship in the morning is not pessimism. It is realism. It trains the mind to remain steady when plans are disrupted, people disappoint you, or circumstances resist your effort. A prepared mind does not panic. It adapts. Most people wake up assuming the day should go smoothly. When it does not, frustration rises quickly. Anger follows. Then poor decisions. This cycle weakens discipline. The Stoic breaks this cycle by adjusting expectations before the day begins. Each morning, remind yourself that obstacles are likely. People may be slow. Systems may fail. Effort may not be rewarded immediately. This mental rehearsal removes shock. You are no longer emotionally surprised by resistance. You meet it calmly. Marcus Aurelius advised beginning each day by anticipating interference, ingratitude, arrogance, and difficulty. This was not to harden the heart, but to soften reactions. When you expect friction, you do not take it personally. Preparation also strengthens patience. Patience is not passive waiting. It is controlled endurance. A patient mind understands that progress is rarely smooth and never guaranteed. This understanding prevents emotional exhaustion. Mental rehearsal is a powerful Stoic tool. By imagining potential challenges in advance, you reduce their emotional impact. When difficulty arrives, it feels familiar. Familiarity breeds calm. This practice also restores control. While you cannot control events, you can control readiness. Readiness turns chaos into a test rather than a threat. A test can be faced. A threat overwhelms. Preparing for difficulty sharpens focus. You stop hoping for perfect conditions and start acting under imperfect ones. This is where real discipline is built. The Stoics did not fear hardship. They feared unpreparedness. Hardship reveals character only when character has been neglected. Morning preparation builds emotional resilience. Resilience is not toughness without feeling. It is strength with awareness. You acknowledge that difficulty may hurt, but you also know it will not break you. This mindset reduces resentment. You stop asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "How will I respond?" That shift alone restores dignity. Preparation also guards against arrogance. When things go well, you remain humble because you know difficulty can return. When things go poorly, you remain composed because you expected resistance. The disciplined mind accepts that life owes nothing beyond opportunity. This acceptance removes entitlement, and entitlement is the enemy of discipline. When you prepare for difficulty each morning, you reclaim authority over your reactions. You do not waste energy wishing reality were different. You invest energy in meeting reality well. This practice also strengthens moral clarity. Under stress, values are tested. Preparation ensures that when pressure arrives, you act according to principle rather than impulse. Many people lose discipline not because life is hard, but because they are surprised that it is hard. The Stoic is never surprised. Preparation is not anxiety. Anxiety imagines disaster without control. Preparation imagines challenge with readiness. One weakens the mind, the other strengthens it over time. This habit changes identity. You no longer see yourself as someone easily shaken. You become someone steady under pressure. Others notice this calm. They may not understand its source, but they feel its presence. Calm authority commands respect. Preparing for difficulty also deepens gratitude. When the day goes smoothly, you appreciate it without clinging to it. When it does not, you endure without bitterness. This balance is the mark of Stoic discipline. Each morning you prepare, you sharpen your inner fortress. You reinforce the walls before the storm arrives. Difficulty will come, that is certain, but when it does, it will not find you unarmed. This is how the Stoic mind remains unshaken, not because life is gentle, but because the mind is ready. 7. Practice voluntary discomfort. The Stoics believed that comfort, when unchecked, quietly weakens the mind. A life arranged entirely around ease dulls awareness, reduces resilience, and erodes discipline. This is why they intentionally practiced voluntary discomfort, not to suffer, but to remain strong. Voluntary discomfort is the deliberate choice to face mild hardship while you are still in control. It trains the mind to understand that discomfort is not dangerous. When discomfort loses its threat, fear loses its power. Most people experience discomfort only when forced. This creates panic, resentment, and emotional collapse. The Stoic reverses this by choosing discomfort willingly. Cold hunger, fatigue, silence, restraint. Each becomes a teacher rather than an enemy. Practicing voluntary discomfort in the morning strengthens resolve. Simple acts, cold water on the face, delaying pleasure, walking instead of resting, signaled to the mind that comfort is optional. Discipline becomes familiar. This practice builds self-trust. When you regularly choose discomfort, you prove to yourself that you can endure more than you thought. Confidence grows not from success, but from endurance. Voluntary discomfort also sharpens gratitude. When ease returns, it is appreciated rather than expected. This prevents entitlement, which weakens discipline. The Stoics did not glorify suffering. They valued preparedness. By facing controlled hardship, you prepare for uncontrolled hardship. This is wisdom, not cruelty. Discomfort teaches patience. The mind learns to sit with unease without rushing to escape it. This skill transfers directly to emotional control, delayed gratification, and long-term focus. Over time, voluntary discomfort reshapes identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who avoids pain and become someone who faces it calmly. This identity makes discipline effortless. The modern world encourages constant comfort, endless convenience, immediate relief, continuous stimulation. Stoic discipline resists this trend not out of rebellion, but out of self-preservation. Practicing discomfort creates space between impulse and action. You no longer obey urges automatically. You choose. This choice is freedom. Voluntary discomfort also strengthens moral character. When the body learns restraint, the mind becomes less reactive under temptation. Discipline expands beyond physical acts into speech, behavior, and judgment. This practice does not require extremes. Consistency matters more than intensity. Small daily acts build unshakable resilience. When discomfort arises unexpectedly, the Stoic is not surprised. Familiarity breeds calm. Calm preserves clarity. Through voluntary discomfort, the mind becomes flexible, resilient, and grounded. Fear diminishes. Confidence stabilizes. Discipline deepens. This is how strength is built quietly, daily, and intentionally. 8. Guard your attention like a fortress. The Stoics understood that attention is the gate through which all influence enters the mind. Whatever you allow through this gate shapes your thoughts, emotions, and actions. A mind without guarded attention is not free, it is occupied. This is why discipline must extend beyond behavior into awareness. In the morning, attention is at its most vulnerable. The mind is open, unformed, and easily pulled in multiple directions. If you do not choose where your attention goes, it will be taken. This is not weakness, it is human nature. Most people surrender attention without resistance. Notifications, noise, conversation, and obligation immediately claim their focus. By midday, the mind is exhausted, scattered, and reactive. Discipline collapses not from effort, but from overload. Guarding attention is an act of sovereignty. You decide what deserves your focus and what does not. This decision requires restraint, because distraction often disguises itself as urgency. The Stoics valued clarity above stimulation. They believed that a calm, focused mind was the foundation of wisdom. Attention scattered across many things becomes shallow. Attention focused becomes powerful. When attention is guarded, thought deepens. Emotional reactions slow. Decision-making improves. You stop being pulled by every impulse and begin acting with intention. This practice begins with awareness. Notice where your attention drifts. Observe without judgment. Distraction reveals weakness, but observation begins correction. Silence becomes essential here. Silence is not emptiness. It is space. Space allows the mind to organize itself. In silence, priorities emerge naturally. Guarding attention also means choosing fewer inputs. Not everything deserves engagement. Not every opinion requires response. Not every thought deserves belief. The disciplined mind treats attention as sacred. Once spent, it cannot be recovered. This awareness makes focus deliberate. When attention is protected, emotional resilience strengthens. External chaos loses its power. You remain centered even when surroundings are noisy. Over time, guarding attention reshapes identity. You become someone who is present, composed, and deliberate. Others sense this presence even when nothing is said. This presence commands respect because it reflects inner order. Attention is life's currency. Spend it wisely. 9. ACT with discipline before motivation. The Stoics never waited to feel ready. They acted because action was required, not because emotion approved. Motivation is unreliable. It rises and falls with mood, energy, and circumstance. Discipline, however, remains steady when motivation disappears. This is why the Stoics placed action above feeling. Most people live in reverse. They wait to feel motivated before they begin. When motivation fades, action stops. Progress collapses. Over time, this conditions the mind to associate effort with emotional permission. Discipline dies quietly in this pattern. The Stoic rejects this dependency. Action comes first. Feeling follows. This order restores authority to the mind. You do not negotiate with resistance. You move despite it. Mourning is the proving ground for this principle. The body may feel heavy. The mind may resist effort. This is precisely when discipline must act. Small decisive actions, rising, moving, beginning work, train the mind to obey reason rather than comfort. Discipline before motivation builds trust in yourself. You prove repeatedly that you do not require perfect conditions to act. This trust becomes confidence, not arrogance, but quiet certainty. The Stoics believed that virtue is practiced, not felt. Courage is action in the presence of fear. Discipline is action in the absence of motivation. Waiting weakens these virtues. Acting strengthens them. This practice also reduces procrastination. Procrastination thrives on emotional delay. When you act immediately on principle, procrastination loses its power. Over time, motivation becomes a byproduct rather than a requirement. You often feel motivated after action has begun. This reinforces discipline naturally. Acting before motivation also builds emotional stability. You stop riding emotional highs and lows. Your behavior becomes consistent. Consistency is the foundation of self-mastery. The Stoics understood that freedom is found in obedience to reason. When reason commands action and action follows, the mind experiences clarity and peace. This is how discipline becomes identity. You no longer ask if you feel like doing what must be done. You do it because it must be done. This principle transforms work, health, relationships, and self-respect. A person who acts consistently becomes formidable, not because they are intense, but because they are dependable. Act first. Let motivation catch up. 10. End the morning with intentional silence. The final act of a disciplined morning is not noise, but silence. Silence is where the mind settles. It is where intention solidifies. The Stoics valued silence because it allowed reflection without distortion. After movement, preparation, and effort, silence brings integration. Without silence, the mind remains scattered. With silence, thoughts align. Most people avoid silence because it exposes the mind. Distraction becomes an escape. The Stoic uses silence as a mirror. Not to judge, but to observe. Intentional silence allows you to review the morning internally. Not with criticism, but with awareness. Did you act with discipline? Did you waste attention? Did you rush unnecessarily? This reflection strengthens future behavior. Silence also creates emotional regulation. Before entering the demands of the day, silence stabilizes intention. You step forward grounded, not reactive. The Stoics believed that wisdom grows in quiet spaces. Noise demands reaction. Silence invites choice. This silence does not need to be long. A few minutes of stillness, breathing, awareness, and presence is enough. What matters is consistency. In silence, you reconnect with purpose. You remember why discipline matters. You remember that the goal is not control over others, but command over yourself. Ending the morning in silence is a transition. You leave preparation and enter execution. The mind feels complete, not rushed. Over time, This practice builds inner calm. Calm is not weakness, it is strength without agitation. The Stoic morning ends quietly because discipline does not need applause. Build your inner fortress. What you have just learned is not motivation. It is discipline. Motivation fades. Discipline remains. These Stoic rules are not meant to impress others. They are meant to rebuild you quietly, consistently, and permanently. A disciplined morning is not about perfection. It is about direction. When you wake with gratitude to God, master your thoughts, rise with purpose, train your body, guard what you consume, prepare for difficulty, embrace discomfort, protect your attention, act without waiting for motivation, and end in silence, you are no longer drifting through life. You are steering it. Most people search for change in dramatic moments. The Stoics knew better. Change begins before the world sees you. In how you wake up. In what you allow into your mind. In whether you choose discipline when comfort is easier. Life will still test you. Difficulty will still come, but now, it will meet a mind that is ready. Calm, grounded, unshaken. This is not because life became easier, but because you became stronger. If this message spoke to you, it means you are not meant for a careless life. You are meant to build something solid within yourself. Subscribe to the Inner Fortress. This channel is for those who choose self-command over excuses, clarity over chaos, and discipline over distraction. Like this video, share it with someone who needs strength more than comfort, and commit to practicing what you've learned, starting tomorrow morning. Remember this. The world does not need more noise. It needs more disciplined minds. Build yours daily, and walk forward, steady, grateful, and in control.